This is TWiT.
Mark Gurman called it last week. He tweeted, Apple will probably clear the deck for their March 25th announcement, their upcoming Monday announcement about Apple News and Apple TV, and get the new hardware out of the way this week. And he couldn't have been more right. New iPads announced yesterday. New iMacs announced today.
Yep.
And I'm still waiting for new MacBooks. You think they'll do that or wait for WWDC?
The 12-inch?
Or that rumored 16-inch, a 15-inch with a...
That's not, yeah, not yet. Anything that's a new design is going to get its own show like later this year.
Yeah. So that's what these all have in common. They're refreshes of existing designs.
Right. No retooling necessary.
Actually, in a way, I understand why Apple didn't update the iPad Air and the iPad Mini. I mean, they put A12 Bionic processors in them, so that's a big internal update. But they've got the home button, they've got the same bezel size, and they have the Courage port. And it feels now fairly retro to still offer iPads like that, if those are your new ones.
Well, they did add pencil support, and for the iPad Mini, I think that's a huge thing.
But the old pencil, not the new pencil.
Oh, wow! Cry me a river. Oh no, I only get 1028 levels of support, and it doesn't have a magnet in it. Oh no, I have to be aware of it rolling off my desk. I'll take it for to have the everything that I love about the iPad Mini, plus having pencil support, so I can take notes and I can draw. Really, the only thing that's ever tempted me about Samsung phones has been that S Pen, having a hand-sized thing that has a really good stylus on it. And now, I mean, I was still using my iPad Mini, second generation, as late as like 4 days ago, and this has got me excited about having a second iPad in the house in addition to my iPad Pro.
Yeah, and in fact, I understand why Apple also did it because they can keep the prices down, and they probably have a.
Well, you'd have to retool it, right? Like you'd have to make the edge flat. You'd have to insert the inductive charging unit, and then it would be an iPad Pro, and they'd be charging iPad Pro prices, and they wouldn't have their medium tier.
But it's kind of, I mean, it's kind of like a car manufacturer selling this year's car and 12 years ago's car. It's a little weird to have that product line.
Well, like maybe it's a little weird to have a brand new Apple Pencil that doesn't work with every single model of every single model of iPad. But I'm perfectly fine with them keeping hardware support for legacy iPads. It really does show how important the iPad is to Apple, that they want to have this variety of hardware, but also this variety of price points out there. So this is really a huge statement about how big they think the iPad is, not just for education and not just for $1,000 laptop replacements to compete with high-end Chromebooks and medium price Windows machines, but actually just as a platform, as an ecosystem into what it sells.
I have to now go find. Maybe why I'm complaining is I have to now go find my old pencil.
Well, it's the $499 price point too. It's like that original iPad price point. That, the original iPad had it, and then we went through the Airs and the Airs too.
The magic $500 price point. Yeah.
And I have to find it again, but my favorite tweet was from the gentleman who runs Android Police, and it was just from David Ruddock, where he said Apple just launched a $500 iPad that pretty much fatally kills the Pixel Slate and didn't even bother having an event for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it took much to kill the Pixel Slate, to be honest with you. So I think it also reminds me of what Apple did in the mature era of the iPod, where they started to fill in the price gaps.
Yeah.
So that now there's a $329 iPad, and there's a whatever you want to pay iPad, $1,200 iPad. And there's pretty good divisions along the way, so you can pick the price point you want.
Yeah, I do think that this indicates how much competition Apple feels for those devices and at those price points. The fact that they don't feel the need to give you in laptops, they don't feel the need to give you a whole range of prices, because I feel as though they don't feel as though they've got a lot of competition, that they're serving Mac users who are not very inclined to switch to Windows or switch to Chromebook. However, at the sub $1,000 price point, they're feeling pressure from all sides, including from people who are going to start to think that gee, I've got this phone. It's got this wonderful high-density screen. It's actually really, really big. What do I need a $500 computer for? I think that part of it is not only filling in the price points and not only chasing after everybody for every budget to make sure that they get money from somebody for a shiny new iPad, but also realizing that they need to have an answer to the question of why would I spend $400 more for an iPad when $500 will buy me this, which is a very, very capable, incredible little laptop or a very, very capable, incredible little tablet. They're saying, well, don't spend $400 more. Give us $500. We'll give you something that doesn't snoop on your security and is way, way more secure.
And Jim can put it in his back pocket.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of people that that just don't need the power of an iPad Pro, you know, the highest end model that's out now. There's a ton of people that will be satisfied with the new models that are out now and don't even need pencil support.
Right.
You know, and I'm talking people that use it as an auxiliary device. You could even use that as your full-time device and be perfectly happy with the speed and everything that comes out of it. I mean, my grandmother, 90 years old, never wanted a computer, but she's had an iPad for a few years. I mean, obviously she's not going to need a pencil unless she has some Picasso yearnings in there somewhere that I don't know about. But, you know, I really don't think that this is a bad release at all.
And certainly anybody who is holding out hope that the Mini was not dead is going to be gratified. This is
absolutely.
Yeah, great to keep it alive. Although when you put them together, and by the way, Apple's press release did say the most complete lineup of iPads ever. So they're making that point. And when you put them together, it just looks like the iPads with the Touch ID and the home button and the camera and the big bezels just feels so, to me, so old-fashioned. But
that inspires you to upgrade. But see, like my mom has the original 12-inch iPad Pro, and she's been using an iPad Air. She has high availability iPads. And she
I wonder why.
iPad Air 2 is well, like she has an iMac, but she almost never uses it. For her, and she calls her iPad her computer, and for her, it's the most approachable computer she's ever had. My father was an IBM engineer, and he's had computers all my life, and she just didn't grok them. But the iPad she does everything on, and the iPad Air 2 is getting a little bit long in the tooth. So she's like, my birthday's coming up. That new 10.5 iPad looks amazing.
That's the one she wants, not the 11-inch.
She wants that one.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And my sister has the 9.7-inch iPad Pro and an older iPad Mini, like the iPad Mini 3, and she's like, yeah, the 3's kind of old too. My birthday's coming up. I want that new Mini. So it's gonna feel like iPads. My family has just got big iPad love.
So for $329, you can get the base model 9.7-inch iPad. For $499, you can get that kind of perfect middle-of-the-road iPad Air 2. And for $799, you can get the 11-inch iPad Pro. I think that does look kind of like a nice lineup, and everything supports a pencil of one kind or another. I'm sure at some point Apple would like to settle on one pencil, though, right?
When they have more distinguishing features in the Pro, that's what they do. Like the Pro gets a new feature and it keeps it for a little while until it gets something else new, and then that previous new feature drops down to the lower end.
Yeah.
So like it had pencil, and then it had the smart keyboard, then it got much bigger, and the pencil dropped down, and then it got the new design and the keyboard. So as it gets new differentiators, things that make it decidedly more Pro, Apple feels comfortable moving the other stuff down into the lowest end, the entry level line, to make it more attractive.
But to be clear, something that Apple's done with iPads and iPhones as of the last edition is to keep all of the devices very powerful.
Yeah, A12 in the new iPads. The A10 is still in the 329 model. What's the difference between the A12 Bionic and the A12X Bionic that's in the iPad Pros?
So the A12, A12 has
the X. Thank you. Jim always cuts right through to the.
It's X here.
It's X here.
4 efficiency cores and 2 performance cores instead of 4 and 4, and it's got 4 GPUs instead of 7 GPUs, I believe.
So it would be faster.
Why I said the X.
The X. It's extremely faster, and of course a lot more storage capability in the Pros. A lot more screen and no Touch ID. And I agree. There are some people who would say, I want that Touch ID. You know, I kind of like Touch ID. I don't have to worry about lighting conditions and holding it so and all that stuff. So
told my hand is blocking the camera every time.
Every time. I know it is.
Yeah.
So
that's why I kind of dig the slightly larger bezels on the iPads. They give you a place, they give you a safe zone to hold things. It's like a Polaroid picture. You're not going to get fingerprints all over it, and you're not going to cover up any parts of the interface.
Yeah, so you can make a case for it. So now iPads range in price from $329 to $1,700. You pick the iPad that's right for you. It's nice. It is very much like, very reminiscent of the iPod, latter days of the iPod, where, you know, pick a price point, there'd be an iPod for you. And they were very different in capabilities. The iPod Touch is very different than the Shuffle, right?
The iPad Shuffle's terrible.
There's no iPad Shuffle, thank God. Yeah. All right. Anything more to say about these new iPads? Except they're here. They're available. You can't get them quite yet. You can pre-order now. And what is it? It's a couple of weeks before you can get it delivered.
Leo, if you were going to go buy one, which
Monday.
one would you buy?
I like the Mini. In fact, we already bought a Mini for review purposes for us. I don't feel like the Air is enough of a differentiator from the last year's iPad Pro to make it worth rushing out and getting. But I really like the Mini is one I would use day in, day out. Yeah. So that's the one we ordered just so we could demonstrate it.
Yeah. Maybe this is also Apple's way of saying that our devices are so good you'll never want to fold them in half. Why would you fold something that folds this in half?
You can fold them, you just can't fold them back.
Yeah.
Do they have?
You can fold them just unintentionally.
Do they have the smart cover for the Mini?
Yes.
Really?
Yep.
Have you used it?
Not the keyboard, but the smart cover.
Oh, the cover, but not the keyboard. Okay.
No, I asked about that, and they're like, well, we don't really have a tiny finger market yet for a smart keyboard that small. But there's, third parties will probably, like Logitech has been making, I think.
Yeah, people would complain. Who's this made for? These keys are too small. So, yeah, I think this is great. I'm glad. I mean, it's been a few years. We needed the return of the Mini is great news, and we needed the updates. And Apple's clearly listening to its audience, because the Mini there must have been some discussions. Should we make it? Should we kill it? I'm glad they kept it.
They said there was like two people who liked the Minis. There were the people who liked them because they used to be less expensive because they were smaller, and smaller things must be less expensive. But some people liked them just because they were portable.
Form factor,
and Apple has this problem sometimes where, like with the iPhone SE, it wasn't really clear to them, at least from the outside. It didn't look clear to them whether people actually wanted a smaller phone, not just a cheaper phone. But they realized with the iPad Mini that there were some people who wanted it cheaper, but the 9.7 inch is a better, cheaper product for those people. And there were people who just really wanted a digital field notes that syncs with iCloud or Dropbox, and you could sit there and draw with and do all this stuff with. And there's some awesome apps like Moleskine is doing some really, really cool agenda style apps. And they're just some amazing editing apps. Like if you're taking photos, I'm going to go through them.
Perfect agenda.
It's a really cool little device. Yeah.
If only I could get a fountain pen for the iPad Mini, then I'd be happy.
You're welcome to. Just you might need a blotter.
The press release: all new iPad Air and iPad Mini delivered dramatic power and capability. Maybe overselling it a little bit. Dramatic, astonishing.
Well, yeah. Modern CPU. Another thing to consider is that maybe Apple is also thinking that if we're going to have a really cool streaming video service that's locked to Apple's, we're going to need to have. It behooves us to make sure there's some awesome tiny tablets out there for people, and affordable tablets for people to carry around these movies and TV shows with.
Yeah.